Studio in Johannesburg is Frank Thompson, who is the CEO of AdvTech, whose numbers came out earlier today. Not quite as good as the Metair numbers because revenue was up, that's great, up 5%, but headline earnings per share down 14%. This is for the year to the end of December. Frank, it sounds as though you've had a bit of a tough time compared to previous times we've spoken.
Yes, I think that's correct. We have three divisions in the group, and our schools division did exceptionally well. 12% revenue growth and 20% earnings contribution growth. And our staffing business was certainly very steady with level turnover, but a nice growth in earnings contribution, much smaller business obviously than the other two. It was really our tertiary business that had a tough year. We knew at the beginning of last year when we realized that our enrollment numbers in the tertiary division had not reached the levels of expectation that we were going to have a difficult year. We reported on that comprehensively at mid-year, and it has come to pass. There was a marginal improvement in the second half that enabled us to mitigate to a small extent the earnings drop, but the facts are what they are.
Let's take a look at some of the corrective action that you've had to take in order to, or as a result of that reduced tertiary enrollment that's come to the fore.
Well, the first thing, Alicia, is that whether we get 15 students in a class where we were aiming at 25, we still have to honor the obligation, and our value system wouldn't have it any other way, to teach those students. So there's not all that much you can do about some of the very important costs of delivering education to the class, even if you didn't get the class you wanted. Mm-hmm. However, what we have been able to do is tackle other areas of expenditure, CapEx, to consolidate campuses, and further moves in that direction will be taking place during this year as we deal with this both challenge and opportunity.
Frank, what about the competition? Because there has been a couple of players coming to the market that I've noticed, because I've seen on my screen SENS announcements here and there from this particular company. Is that also eroding your margins and eroding your market share?
No, I assume obviously you're referring to Curro, and Curro have entered the market in a somewhat different area to ourselves. What that means is that they're typically on average in a lower price sector to us, and therefore not a direct competitor. AdvTech has had a consistent and sustained investment strategy for many years and plans to continue that for a long time to come, again in a sustainable way.
So where's the problem? Why are we not seeing the kind of progress you're making on the secondary level, for example, filter through to that tertiary level? Because you highlight specifically that your 1,301 matric candidates once again achieved outstanding results, and collectively they've achieved 2,840 distinctions. So where are you losing, in terms of that pipeline not flowing through?
Well, our matric students don't necessarily all need or want to go to our tertiary institutions. Yeah. That is not a simple pipeline in the way that you might graduate from grade 10 to 11 to 12. We don't offer in our tertiary space medicine, engineering, the sciences, and a lot of the programs that our particularly gifted and able matric students are looking to do. So it's not as simple as a pipeline.
Exactly, so competition is heightening. Are you looking to see a shifting in terms of what you're offering on a tertiary level?
Yes, we are. We are responding to the market. We've invested strongly in technology in the last few years, looking to reach markets outside South Africa. Some 15% of our student population are already non-South African, and we're certainly aiming to grow that, both with new technology and new means of education that are part of the rollout of new products and offerings in the tertiary division.
Frank, you've almost answered a part of the question I was going to ask you. What about the rest of Africa? Because there is a burgeoning middle class, and there is going to be a massive, massive demand for good quality education. But have you really sat down and thought this out, and how you can do it either remotely or setting up a physical presence in other African countries? How's it going to work for you? Because this really, to me, is a massive opportunity for you.
An interesting way to think about this, which we do, is to differentiate between investing in other African countries or thinking about the equivalent of an export market, which is really to bring non-South African students into our own campuses and institutions. This is especially important in the tertiary space, where we have had the student enrollment setback in South Africa, and one of the ways of mitigating that is to bring more students from other countries here. That is not quite the same thing, as you correctly point out, as investing and putting bricks and mortar and infrastructure in other African countries. We've tended to steer clear of that so far, and with the rise of technology and non-traditional modes of education, which is really distance education and e-learning, and the role of technology in actual teaching and learning, it may perhaps not be as necessary to put infrastructure on the ground in other countries, and yet you will still be able to reach those markets and those students and offer them the outstanding services we do in this country as well.